So I'm going to start by welcoming you to this first or introductory session about the fifth model about methods and procedures of scientific research. Today we are glad to welcome to the Professor Carolina Escudero. She holds a PhD and a postdoctoral study in social psychology from GFK University in Argentina. And she also has a master's degree in sexual difference from the University of Barcelona. And now she's working as associate professor at the Faculty of Communication Science here at the Autonomous University of Barcelona, and also as an academic director and professor of the journalism school at the University of Missouri at the States. And from her research area, media psychology, she focuses on emotions, trauma, emotional management, and repair, the digital divide and equality, as well as social movements. And she teaches a lot of seminars and research on topics related to human rights, emotions in journalism, and reparation for victims within other topics. So she's kind of an expert when it comes to research. So it's perfect for today's session. So thank you, Carolina, for your time today and welcome to this opening session.
Thank you very much, Albert. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Hello, Georgie, I know you already. Ning Hao, Haoma to the students from China. Welcome everybody. Stephen, Brahmana. I hope I am the pronunciation of your names is okay. So today I am going to introduce, in 1 hour discussing about methodology is an introduction, but I think methodology can be very interesting and fun if we are asking to ourselves, first of all, the good question. And the good question about the topic we like, about the topic that we want to work on. And we become very critical as well about our topic. So isn't that way? And under this perspective, that I think is very helpful to organize a research by asking ourselves the good questions at the good moment. Okay, so I'm going to start sharing this presentation. Okay, that is the end. So if you have any doubt, please take notes of it. And I'm planning by the end of this presentation to discuss with you if you have any question or if you need to develop some points and you're kind of lost. So yes, we can discuss about it, okay? Okay. So you're having some books and PDF, on the campus website, but when we are discussing and we are considering to advance with the research, what we can do with research, we can do many different things. And that is the beginning of our question is we can explain a situation, evaluate how a program or a new policy is working, compare two countries, two programs, correlate some results, categorize, predict, but also we can discuss about control the impact of some situations, etc. Okay, so with research, we can go in many different directions. And the important thing is to organize how we want to advance and in what way we are going to take in consideration our sources, okay, our materials for the research. So the beginning of the research is beginning with a problem. The problem will be our main basis for our research. It will justify the need to advance into our topic. So the idea of a problem is something that is happening, is going on, is not having a solution or something that it can help to change the situation, to improve a situation, to provide a service, etc., etc. So the first thing we have to recognize and observe and take note is about what is the problem here? What is the problem that I'm trying to explore, probably, and then go farther, okay? So the problem, it should be the beginning. Then we have to advance in what we call the research framework. So again, we need to ask ourselves questions like, here you have some examples, but what we are going to do here? What is the subject, the specific subject of this research? And why are you going to do it? What is the motivation? What is the need? What is the problem? Okay, the reason for this research being necessary or interesting or showing a novelty or creating a new app, so I am creating a new service, but a solution. And how are you going to do it? So the research methods that you will use to carry out the project should be explained there. You should see that part as well, how I can do that, because maybe the research problem is very clear, but it's very difficult to connect with the sources. So maybe you have to consider how and if you can do that, if you have access to the sources, to work with them, to receive their answers, and to publish their answers as well. And when are you going to do it as well? It's very important, the when, because it is when you can have access to the sources, because maybe the political party in this country is changing and a new policy will be presented regarding social media and the controls in your country. So you need to program your work by knowing, like, I know the rules now, the rules, they're not going to change so far, because I can see that in that period I can make it, and I am not going to I am not going to receive an important impact or last minute change, or people, they are not going to feel comfortable on answering the questions or making part of a focus group because something is going on. You have to take into consideration this when, if something can have a connection with your research and a social situation, a country situation, etc., etc. So the idea is that you can answer these questions, organize your idea, recognize limitations to have access to sources, studies, etc., and then advance. So then we are talking about primary data. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but there are different basic methods that we can use to collect primary data. Like, we can ask questions about the people that we know that they're involved or connected in a certain way to the topic. We can conduct some interviews. Those interviews, maybe we can use them at the end for our research, or maybe not, is we are exploring, is the explorative period, but isn't that period that we are going to consider the type of direction that our study will take. Okay, so interviews to experts or to people that they make part of the population, that they represent the population that you want to study, it can be very interesting. It can help you a lot because you can recognize by asking questions or conducting an interview, a long interview, about some needs that they're not written, they're not on papers, they're not published yet, and it's something happening right now. The importance of the present in research is quite crucial. Okay, knowing what the people need, okay, at this moment. observing, different dynamics in the topic that we are deciding to study. So observing without getting involved, like without asking question, but going to the place, going to one company that is producing, I don't know, sports clothing, and observe how do they work, how do they organize themselves. um, but our presence shouldn't be intrusive because we don't have to impact what is going on. Okay. um, Immersing oneself in a situation that is the opposite. So, yes, going further, making part of a situation, like go and work in that company. Like you ask, like, can I make an experience here, work during 8 hours, having lunch, etc. I am, I will probably do my research on that, but I need to be more involved first in order to make up more decisions. So it depends on your personality, it depends in the way you want to explore the topic, but you can work on this immersion experience doing experiments or doing experiences as well, like inviting people and, a kind of a focus group, asking them questions or showing them a piece of news and observing the reactions to the photography or to a product, and manipulating models. It depends, but that will be more for a lab. Okay, I don't think in that group we are having this type of research. Um, so the idea of the research is important to ask ourselves questions, to connect to the people that they're working on that and they're experiencing the topic that we want to go further. And and this researcher, Salitai, is providing a list of questions that it can be very helpful for us to provide a better structure to our work, because it's very easy to get lost during the period, like, okay, I am working on the state of art and I am finding a lot of ways to advance into this research, and I like many different scholars that they're analyzing hate speech. So I don't know if I should go into the psychological um, area to analyze this, or become more quantitative and observe how many people per day they use this type of words in the European Union countries. Or no, I want to observe the social impact on that and how the different pedagogical projects connected to hate speech in primary school. So that it depends on your interest, your past experience, on the needs that you observed in some population, that it will be the motivation to advance. But once you have the motivation, once you understand the type of sources that you can have, you can use, and you have access, then it's important to go to these type of questions, like, is the topic too broad? That is the first question that we have to answer to ourselves. Maybe we need to encourage ourselves to do not advance in such an ambitious or broad topic. um, can the problem be realistically investigated? Sometimes we are like in love with our topic and we are not recognizing the limitations that we have, or the timing. Okay, I can't conduct 52 interviews or 22 interviews in 1 month. And sometimes, even if people they are answering and they're telling me, yes, I will answer the questionnaire, yes, I will give you an interview, people can change their minds. People, they can, one day they stop answering. So we need to make sure that we can control our study population and that we can advance in that direction. We can advance in order to obtain results. So we need to be realistic with that, to our access, to our possibilities. Also, are the data susceptible to analysis? Can I analyze? Do I know how to analyze this? It was prepared in a way following um, directions, methodological directions that I can analyze and obtain serious results, because two in-depth interviews is not enough for a study, so you need to go farther. I will say six in-depth interviews, yes, that we are having a better idea about your study and explorative study. But if you can combine like focus groups interviews, then is you're arriving to a better result, and that will be more interesting as well. Is the problem significant? That is an exercise to become more objective, with our work, and to recognize that the significance of what we are going to do, the impact on society, on this population, and also on us. Like, I'm providing a new methodology, I am creating a new way to analyze or to advance about this in the hate speech studies, or in the hate speech um, way to present that at schools, adapting a new methodology for that. Can the results of the study be generalized or not? I need to check on that. What cost and time are involved in the analysis? Also, sometimes the students, they're considering that they can advance really fast, but in one interview or in two interviews, or the results of a survey can provide us exceptional and unexpected answers. And that is great, but it will take us more time in order to understand, justify, and advance with these new unexpected results. Okay? So time is very important for the analyze. Maybe we are expecting some type of questions, but maybe we are not receiving these questions, and everything can change, and we need to be ready and open for that. Is the planned approach appropriate for to this project? Maybe I have a very psychological approach, which is good, is comprehensive, is empathetic, but by taking in consideration the needs of this population and in the way they're presenting their needs and priorities, maybe it should be more pedagogical, because they need a new plan for school teachers to present, to work and discuss with primary school students what is going on with hate speech. So maybe I should add, as a theoretical framework, something connected to pedagogy. Okay, it's not only about communication. Education is involved, so I need more authors. So I need to listen, be very empathetic about what do they need, what I think is the best, but what do they think, the people that I am connected with, about that? And maybe they have a different perspective, and I need to understand why. Is there any potential harm to the study participants if I am interviewing people that they're victims of traumatic events? I need to know how to interview people that they were traumatized, and if my research is about war, conflict, or and I am going to reopen their traumatic events, I need to be prepared, because I need to talk with experts on that in order to do not recreate or reopen a traumatic event, do not re-victimize some victims, etc., etc. So I need to know how I am going to talk and proceed with my interviews, okay, and my sources. Um, as you can see here, science is systematic and cumulative. So there is an interconnection with, so that's why we are working on the state of the art, right? We're taking into consideration the work from other scholars, and we are not focusing, it doesn't, in one country, in one methodology. We are focusing on different studies that are connected to our topic, and we take that in consideration because there we recognize this interconnection, and we take in consideration these studies experiences and results, and that's why we are advancing, but not in the same way than them. We are looking for new results and new solutions. Okay, so yes, we take in consideration and we make a systematic review to understand more about the topic, what people have done, what scholars they have done in different countries. It's important to provide different authors, um, and from different countries. If you can read in three different languages and you can translate into English for your work, that is more than welcome. You know, the diversity of authors, the diversity of studies. If we can observe that, if that is presented, well presented in our paper, that is amazing. So please do that. And also in research is very important that it's not that it should be qualitative or quantitative. We can go into mixed methods. I don't know if you're familiar or if you already conducted some research based on mixed methods. Depending on your study, depending on your access to the sources, doing a survey can be amazing, and it can provide us, you know, a better idea and can change the landscape that we had before about the topic. But we need to make sure that people will answer the survey. You know, in order for a survey to be validated, we need 100 is like the starting number. So please take that into consideration. If you have time, if you have sources that they will respond to the survey, if you need 100 answers, maybe you should send the survey to 200 people. Okay, once again, it's not that easy that people respond to surveys, depending on the topic, depending on the culture, depending on the country situation, etc., etc. um, what is very helpful when we are talking about surveys is that at the really beginning, in the introduction, that this survey is an academic study, and you are not going to be recognized on the study, your name, etc., is anonymized. But it's important to tell to people that how long it will take them to answer the survey. When people see that it's less than 5 minutes, they love that. But if you're turning like, 10 minutes, 12, you're not going to receive a lot of answers. So time is very important for that. That is that they are not going to be recognized on the study as well, depending on the topic, how safe they feel about answering to it. It's important to mention that this is a scientific study, and university is behind that, and we need always their consent. So on the survey, you have to write if they provide their consent, but also if you're conducting interviews, you always need the consent form, like, yes, I provide my consent for this interview, that is connected to this scientific study for the autonomous university, etc., etc. Not having the consent is not having the interview. Okay, so that is something that you need to keep on mind. Okay, we need all the consents for the studies. And what if you are planning to conduct a focus group with children? You need consent from parents. If this focus group will happen in one primary school, you need consent from the primary school teacher or principal, but also from the parents, okay? So that's why we need to check and be very serious about our access to the sources, because some sources they can represent some complexities that we need to take into consideration. So then we're is collecting data, reviewing, and analyzing secondary data. So in secondary data, what is the meaning of that? So we can go in different levels with secondary data. So it depends on our study, but if we need information about demographics, population, if this population, we need to distinguish, is a comparative study connected to people that they are living in Barcelona city and people that they're living outside Barcelona city. So if we are taking into consideration ethnic aspects, gender, um, migration trends in the cities, okay, that is important. Discrimination, if I am going to make a discrimination by age, gender, type of education, um, I need to, that should be very clear on the study and justified why I am using this type of discrimination on the population. Um, if I am going to use gender equality, again, I need to justify that, if in what way, okay, by age, by ethnicity, policy environment. If I am going to collect information about that, I need to be very clear about the sources, and I need sources that they are not from 2014. Okay, I need very the data from the last years. um, Economic environment, also poverty levels. What is the meaning of poverty in, depending on the culture, depending on the situation? What is the meaning? Because in some countries, is poverty is not a good word. Is people under a vulnerable situation. So the type of words we're using, in the way we are presenting that, in the way we are analyzing that, they're also connected to cultural, historical aspect that we need to take into consideration, okay? Um, if I am taking into consideration also as a secondary data employment and wages, informal or formal employment, and what are the variables here? Age, nationality, type of country, economical crisis in the country, a change of government, etc., etc. Okay, so I need to provide more information about this, the population that I am studying. So the secondary data is helping me to develop and provide a better idea about my focus population for this specific study at this specific time of the year, etc., etc. Sources, I will go back to sources because sources are very important for a research. We can have many different type of sources, and it depends on our study, but also about our connections and access. um, Official statistics, so I always need to inform where are these statistics, you know, APA 7 style. If I am using technical reports, a technical report is not a scientific or academic paper, it's a technical report. So I need the name of the report, the year of this report, and how and why this report is more important than others. Because it's the latest, because it's the only one, because all the experts they're taking in consideration this one and not the others. So yes, I need to, if I am making decisions, and that will be one of my main sources, I need to explain why, because maybe there are other sources that they're explaining the topic, but I decide about that one. So, well, I should provide my information and prove that I am objective on the study, okay? Um, of course, scholarly journals, literature review, um, journals that they're not scientific, but they can provide information on some interviews, on some experts, advices, etc., and reference books as well. Okay. Make use of local experts. That is important because if you're working on a topic that is connected to education in Barcelona, talk to experts from Barcelona that they are working on that. Maybe they are not publishing a lot of papers, but they are working on education for a very long time and they have a lot of experience and they can recognize and present the needs, the priorities, the mistakes, the new policies that they're coming, etc., etc. So local experts connected to your topics are very important. So here you have a list of the secondary data sources depending on your study. And it's important that is to take in consideration when that was published, the access that I have to it, if this is a good source, if I see that it's very difficult to download the material, or I need to check on that because I need to present all the material in the references and we need to have access, okay? Um, and also consider when is a primary source and when it's become a secondary source. Okay, secondary source is to provide more details about the study, but your primary source is the focus group you conducted with the school teachers. But then you need information, some information about how parents react to the new law in the country. Okay, you can go for that to secondary sources if you want, okay? But your main data, your main source is the school teachers. In the way you're presenting your topic is the school teachers. So triangulation, I don't know if you're familiar, but is quite recommended when we are working on qualitative research. For instance, if you're conducting a focus group with 8 school teachers, the focus group, the grade number is between 8 and 10. Try to have some diversity on gender in order to that they can it can provide you better idea and different answers and maybe different needs. And no more than 10, because conduct a focus group, you don't know a lot about the people behaviors, and if you will have a positive or a negative leader on the group. So it's important that you can manage the conversation between the people should feel safe and comfortable to discuss about the topic, so do not make a big group for that. And so you can conduct a focus group as a qualitative data collection and combine the focus group then with in-depth interviews. So you will have different results. They are both qualitative results. So then with the results that you obtained from the focus group, you can use that because you have a better idea about what is going on to create the interviews questions. So you will create a questionnaire with that, but the focus group also will provide you some results. Then you will conduct, let's say, 4 in-depth interviews. The in-depth interviews, you will analyze them and you will have results. So you will have the focus group results. On the other hand, the in-depth interviews results. So then you are going to combine, compare, and triangulate both results. If you can observe that they present the same needs, the group characteristics or the type of examples they're bringing to present the topic or the problem are quite the same. They repeat this word, the word problem, and they don't talk about solutions. So you observe and you analyze, and then you you compare and you unify by comparing and observing the differences and the common points. You will arrive to a big result, to the main result, and maybe you can create categories on that. Okay. So that is a triangulation, a process of triangulation by combining results obtained. And then once you have the results, you will arrive to the conclusions. And conclusions is not just answering your research questions or your research objectives. Conclusions is more than that. You have to recognize what you could answer and not, and probably not, and the limitations of the study. Okay, so you have to highlight the good points, your achievements, but also your limitations, and show and provide ideas about the new directions for future research on this topic. What could be a good direction, because during your research is true and is real, that you can't cover all the details. You can't provide an answer to all the problems. But by recognizing the problems and placing the problems, you're opening a new avenue for research. So that is quite important too. And that is a part of our work as researchers, to recognize and the problematics and needs and open new avenues. Maybe we just open one little door, but there is a main avenue that it needs to be explored. So we should say that by the end of our study. Okay. So those are my references. And now, if you want, if you have doubts or questions, feel free to ask or to react, or if you wanna discuss or present your topic and the doubts connected to your topic, feel free to do that. Thanks for your attention.
Come on, guys, don't be shy. I'm sure you can use this session to ask about something you're curious or you want to know and apply for your final thesis. So now it's time for ask that.
Yes, or maybe you're thinking and you're a little bit like, maybe it's in that direction and maybe I will change. Um, so if in the future you have any questions connected to this presentation, to this type of methodology, do not hesitate to send me an email, because I know that when we are working on a topic and we're insecure, we don't know maybe, but if you can start by answering the questions that I was showing to you during this presentation, that will provide you some directions. But even if you have these directions, you're like a little bit lost about the methodology, if you want to go to qualitative or mixed methods, you can send me an email, and I will be more than happy to answer you. Okay. Okay, I think we don't have any questions so far. So
Yeah, I
so
don't think so.
so thank you very much for your attention, and I hope you will make a great job with your final work for this master.
Thank you,
Thank you
Carolina.
so much, Carolina. This was really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Steven, for that, and thank you,
Thank you.
Carolina, for the session today. So, okay, guys, so if you don't want to ask anything or like to share any thoughts, any comments, I think we're going to leave it here for today. So that's all. Thank you, guys. Remember, I think I wrote to you last week, but yes, just to be clear, we have suspended the oral presentation of your pre-project. So it will be the work of your supervisors to guide you in the next steps of your final work. I mean, it's a pity because of the tight schedule that we are following, we don't have more options. But please, if you have any doubts about it, you like to, I don't know, maybe a private meeting with the coordination team, don't hesitate to write us and to anything else you might need. So you have our contacts. And so again, thank you guys for joining us today, and we see you in a couple weeks.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Bye.
Thank
thank
you,
you
Luis.
guys.
Have a wonderful
Bye
day.
bye.
Bye.
Goodbye,
Thank you.
everyone. Have a
Bye
good day.
bye.